Hi, thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul Zimi Finn. This is the Generation Report. While I continue to work on my post-election reaction, I thought I'd offer a brief take on what's happening in the world first. About 3 years ago, sometime in between the events in Afghanistan and the beginning of the war in Ukraine, I bought a copy of The Gathering Storm, Winston Churchill's famous memoir of the pre-World War II years in Great Britain. What struck me as I read the book was how over the entire period spanning between 1919 and 1939, Britain's political leaders and diplomats made almost a covenant out of trying to prevent a Second World War, even to the point where their decisions flew in the face of common sense. All the intelligence, good intentions, and diplomatic protocols in the world can't overcome the unholy trinity of untrammeled nationalism, rampant xenophobia, and unchained homicidal megalomaniacs hell-bent on destroying freedom and democracy. That's the lesson history teaches us, right? Well, that depends on whose version of history you subscribe to. One person who clearly subscribes to that last version of history is America's soon-to-be former Secretary of State. Back in 2019, Antony Blinken co-authored an essay published by the Brookings Institution which drew on what he called America's past mistakes, that past being the 1930s, as the guiding basis for the foreign policy America should pursue going forward. Boiled down to its essence, the essay argues this. In the 21st century, America will be able to move with the times and keep a lid on the world's tensions if America's leaders employ our diplomatic and military capabilities skillfully and they support policies that have become standard on trade and immigration. Setting aside just how banal and boring that argument is, what Blinken was essentially saying was, leave foreign policy to the experts and everything will be fine. If he only knew that was essentially the same rationale which helped to bring about World War II. It would admittedly be easy to take these examples and leap to a conclusion about the perils of having bad leaders during fourth turnings. But while that idea I hope speaks for itself, one takeaway that I think can be drawn from just these examples is that when the world political situation is especially tense or conflict-ridden as it is now, there is a certain mindset or outlook which, if carried too far, tends to make an already dangerous world even more dangerous. Leaders who believe that reason and the greater good are universal standards recognized by everyone, or who believe their position gives them special insight to understand complex problems and license to deal with them however they see fit, tend to also be the sort of leaders who see the past as a litany of mistakes and catastrophes brought on by people fundamentally unlike themselves. Globalists like Antony Blinken are so convinced the world needs people like them, they can't possibly stop to consider how the world situation might worsen because of people like them.
The United States continues to step up. We've obligated just recently and pushed out the door another $8 billion in security assistance for Ukraine. That was in September. Another almost $500 million just a few weeks ago. And President Biden is committed to making sure that every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door between now and January 20th.
A true in-depth discussion comparing and contrasting the decisions of British and European leaders in the 1930s to the decisions of American leaders today could obviously go on forever. But for me, while in both cases and in both contexts there was an incredible lack of forethought, the decisions of our leaders today are, if anything, even more indefensible. Back then, it seems that what British and European leaders succumbed to was wishful thinking. Today, our leaders have clearly succumbed to something else.
We must commit now to be in this fight for the long haul. We must remain unified today and tomorrow and the day after, and for the years and decades to come. It will not be easy. There will be cost, but it's a price we have to pay. But the autocrats of the world have grown weaker, not stronger, because in the moments of great upheaval and uncertainty, that knowing what you stand for is most important, and knowing who stands with you makes all the difference.
I truly believe we're at another inflection point in world history. For the choices we make today will determine our future for decades to come.
Whatever happens over the next month and a half, the early 2020s will go down as a time when America's leadership class became consumed with hubris about its ability to shape the world that it wanted. Someday, the lessons will hopefully be written down. In the meantime, we can only hope this final expression of their hubris doesn't bring on World War III.
And what the people call impossible is just an illusion.
Thank you so much for listening. May God bless America.